Good morning, video games. Welcome to Filthy Casuals, a podcast about video games hosted by three very kind and extremely knowledgeable boys. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tommy Daslow, and wouldn't you know it, I'm joined as per usual.
You're really throwing me off here, Tommy. It's Ben Vanel here, and rounding out the trio, as always...
It's me, the round one of the trio, which is what my negative self-monologue told me. Not that I have a real monologue, because that would be crazy in my voice.
I saw a story... there's been more news about the inner monologue.
It's only come out within the last sort of... It's between Hellblade 1 and 2
is
when I've learned about it, and has changed my understanding of what that game is trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was some news this week that they did some tests and people who don't have an inner monologue have more difficulty with memory-based tasks.
I don't love memory-based tasks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever done one well. I can't recall.
Okay.
Whoa!
That's conclusive.
Was this like a bit of publicity for
Hellblade
2? They're like, we're going to commission... You know when you read in the paper, they're like, a study found this, and it's like the most like random esoteric fact, and it's like, who decided that this was going to be their work week? Like, who commissioned this? And, you know, in this case, the answer could well be Microsoft themselves. That's why they closed down those studios. They need money to fund scientific studies
and R&D.
as promo for video games that they're putting out.
Well, it wouldn't be Microsoft because they've done no promo for Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be Ninja Theory because they've been getting on their socials and
I'll tell
putting
you who's-
stuff out.
There's been little bits and pieces in the last week.
In the last 48 hours, I feel like.
And 2 years ago as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, in the last week,
4 years ago.
I'll tell you who's done more promo for that game than Microsoft in the last week. Adam Knox.
Oh.
Messaged just yesterday to say, hey, it's out tonight. I had no idea.
6 p.m. Australia time.
Yeah.
I went in on it a little bit. We'll talk about that later. But since we're talking about studies,
Okay.
I have a neat segue for you. I saw the results of a study.
Ooh.
The news article I saw presented as but then it turns out it was a survey run by fandom.com, you know, like the shit wiki.
It's not a study.
No, and it was like 5,000 people. But I thought the results were like an interesting thing that reflects what seems to be the case about games at the moment, where it was about how much like your own creativity and constructing things in games and self-expression, how much that being possible within a game is important to you. And a lot of people responded that, they love it.
Yeah. I saw this too. It was the majority, right? Like the thing that they enjoy about a game is the ability to build and create, which is not how I feel.
Yeah, is this in terms of like character creators and that
The
kind of
examples were things
thing?
like Minecraft
Yeah,
and Roblox
okay.
and that sort of thing. So less character creators and more the sort of genre of games that exists around that sort of like crafting based thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'm like you. I'm the opposite, and maybe it speaks to like your day job / life being creative and being like, I put the game on. I'm escaping from that. I'm spending my day. Hey, look, my day. I come in here. This is my character creator. Okay, I'm being like, what's a riff with like what would the nose look like on a funny riff? What kind of face? What kind of skin color would a funny riff have?
Settings would this joke have?
I get home. I want to walk through that door and I want to be on rails, baby.
Yeah.
I want
Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I want a drill sergeant in there when I walk in, just telling me what to do for every minute before I go to bed.
Well, that's the thing. I don't like necessarily as a rule just like linear stuff or whatever. I do love stories and things, but I also like reactive worlds and responsive things. I like Baldur's Gate 3 and whatever. But that sense of curation rather than a Lego set is my preference. And also, again, we're talking about the active user base of fandom.com. So it's going to skew in a direction that does not necessarily represent the population at large.
Sure.
But it is what developers or studios and publishers at least seem to be pushing further towards.
Sure.
Whether that's because players respond to it in a enjoyment way or in a monetization way.
Well, exactly. Customize. I bet, if you're someone who's like leaning into the monetization of your games and you see the results of this study, you're like, yes. Oh, you like customizing, do you? Well, it'll cost you.
Yeah, you want to pay for a slider?
Yeah.
Look, what are you, at a restaurant?
Are you a man who's hungry at a restaurant but not very hungry?
Yeah. What are you, planning a shit function?
Yeah. What is this, a last minute wedding? setting.
What do you think we could work out? What was the first use of a character creator in a game? Like an actual visual, like not just the name, but like the first game that let you pick from a from a broad enough and not just like. I know there's like old SNES RPGs where you could pick like one of two characters, or you could pick a gender.
One like Final Fantasy, you can pick your classes of your party.
Right.
And
but I mean,
earlier than that, like wizards and warriors or whatever. Like
wizardry.
Wizardry.
Yeah.
No, I mean like here's a screen.
Yeah.
Here's like a choice of
Different
8 different
heads,
eyes, different hairstyles. Mario 64, where you get to fuck up his face on the title screen.
Yeah,
probably
doesn't stick with
you
it.
You should have been able to do that, and then that's what he looks like for the whole game.
Click save. Yeah.
Something like Ultima Online
Probably
be up there.
Yeah, because like you're right. Like Diablo and stuff, like you don't get to choose how they look. So yeah,
you can
probably
pick a bit in like Elder Scrolls Arena and shit like that, which is
Right.
probably after Ultima Online, even maybe, or like maybe Ultima, or maybe Ultima.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting question.
I'm
though.
having
Like
a
The
look.
Sims and stuff is the first time you sort of think of that. What we would view as a character creator now.
Yeah.
Or like The Sims 2 in particular is the first time I remember really moving those sort of slider type things around.
Right. What about like Morrowind?
But you could pick heads. You have there was a long time where you had pre-made skulls.
Yeah.
And you could switch hair color and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But fully
yeah.
being able to go, nah, let me make this look bad.
Yeah.
Was
I'm on r/gaming.
Okay.
First game with custom character. This was posted 5 years ago.
Okay.
What was the first game where you could make your own character? Something like today's Dragon Ball Xenoverse or Dark Souls even. Interesting choices of example.
Yeah.
How far back does this concept go? And then the first reply I've seen here is, I can't tell if people are posting troll answers or they're just dumb. So I don't know if this is going to give us...
This is great research being done here.
Hey, this is on par with Fandom.wiki, let's be honest. This is the same user base.
Someone said Dungeon Siege 2, which like I don't know what that... But it does... I reckon it would be something that would be surprising.
Dungeon Siege 2 is too late, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Like Dungeon Siege 1 was like 2001.
Right.
Which is post Sims.
Yeah, it does seem like it'd be this. Someone said NBA hang time. It does seem like it would be some random thing where it's like, some like old PC game from the 80s that just randomly has it in there that then no one else implemented on it for like another, 10, 15 years.
If Perfect Dark had come out with that Game Boy camera thing it was going to do, but then they got worried that you could put, your teachers and shit on it.
Yeah. I bet it is like one of those early Elder Scrollses or something like that where you create the character but you never see them in game.
Maybe.
Like you have that thing where you're like, oh, this is the face, this is the portrait, this is the clothes, this is the,
There's got to have been a game that let you make like a BMP file in Paint and then chuck that on your character's face. Unreal Tournament, you could put skins and shit on them.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to go outside and sort of mod the game, does that count? I guess not, because it's not an inbuilt.
No.
But they come with modding kits.
Yeah.
That's true. This is a great... I found another forum post asking the same thing.
Yeah.
This is a great reply. RuneScape, and then edit, misread the title. and this was posted on December the 25th of 2017. So just Christmas Day. Finished
at 3
lunch.
p.m. Oh, my eyes were fuzzy. Sorry.
Turkey? Wait, sorry. I misread the question.
Damn.
Wow.
That's the experience of trying to search for fucking anything on the internet these days, though.
This is worth looking up in your own time just to see the things. One of the WWF N64 games?
Maybe.
Oh, I do. I think the sports game is a good call.
Yeah, those WWF ones especially, because it's like make yourself a like character.
Yeah.
They did build a lot of shit. You could save it onto your memory pack.
Yep.
Spelled with a K only.
Maybe we can turn this episode into one of these...
I remember specific things.
Yeah.
Maybe we can turn this episode into one of these infuriating forum posts, because in both these posts I've looked at, no one... I thought it was going to be a thing where like it's just a matter of record. Like someone just knows. It's like an interesting trivia fact, but no one seems to be really clear on what the very first
There's a
one
2-hour
is.
YouTube video essay in this. Get on it, us.
There's a game here called The Black Onyx from 1984, and this guy's posted this. Now that looks very like old school.
It's a bunch of
rudimentary
different
graphics.
sort of pre-made heads, though, still being swapped out. Which it depends where we're drawing the line. How far along the character creator slider we want to move the setting to what we accept as a modern one. But anyway,
Here we go.
I think it's interesting.
I found it.
Shut up! You did not.
Watch him say turkey now.
Gobble gobble. It's a person's guess, but they say my first experience with. Oh God!
Not the same thing.
Hey Tommy, he found it.
Don't worry.
It's
my
been
first
found.
experience with it was Street Fighter 6 last year. That was the first one.
Great idea. A thing like this should be implemented into a game.
God, my first experience of a computerized character creation system came with 1988's Pool of Radiance.
Okay.
That's one of those like wizardry type RPG things that would sort of make sense.
See, that's what I assumed it'd be like slightly further back than you would assume.
Well, and there are a bunch of like Apple II. Like I remember playing a bunch of Let's Draw Garfield or whatever on like an Apple II that we got from a school like garage sale.
Oh yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the school equivalent of a garage
car boot
is.
sale,
the hall, a bus boot sale.
Yes.
But we got like a cheap Apple II with a ton of floppy disks that since
yes.
melted in the place where they were put, unfortunately, from the heat.
Yeah,
where were they put?
Volcano.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So this was like a one of those ones based on Dungeons and Dragons system as well. So like that makes complete sense.
Yep.
And also, it is kind of what I suspected. You made like a portrait that you never saw in game.
But
really.
the drawing, the little was up in the corner maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
So maybe that.
Question solved.
Yep.
But yeah, it's interesting that does reflect what my perception of people's preferences, especially it does skew towards younger people.
Yep.
Are these days, which don't mirror our preferences necessarily, but it takes all sorts and whatever.
I mean, GTA Online still being popular kind of speaks to that. That's very like, you're kind of like role playing in there. You've got like a lot of freedom to deck your little world out however you want.
All those sorts of things I can pay to have anybody in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Including you predicted that the next Fallout thing we'd see would be Fallout in Fortnite.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember you predicting this, but someone in our Discord pointed out that you...
I didn't predict it. I said it as a joke. Imagine that. And then now it's actually happened.
Yeah, all right. Maybe like, what's his name who predicted a bunch of
Nostradamus,
shit? Nostradamus was just really sarcastic.
Yeah, he was an open micer.
Yeah, he was riffing.
Hey, do you reckon one day some guy's going to try to milk a cow? Well, what's he going to be thinking? There's...
I was actually in my head, I came up with a joke on that theme. That's like for people who don't know, that's like a kind of a bit of a trope hack stand-up thing of like,
it's
the first guy, like one of those jokes that everyone kind of comes up with when they start stand-up.
The equivalent of like, the mother-in-law is whatever, like that sort of level of...
The first guy to drink milk, what was he doing?
Yeah.
So it relies on having heavy knowledge of that.
Okay.
Hey, the first guy to eat ass, what was he doing? Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah.
Having a good time, honestly.
What do you think?
Wouldn't work on me.
Nostradamus, in 2024, they will eat ass then.
Yeah. There's going to be an announcement next week about eating ass is finally in Fortnite.
For quite a few years before that, they'll pretend not to. But one day they'll admit it.
But yes, first piece of new Fallout media.
Yeah.
Post the show being on and being a huge hit, you would think the time is right to capitalize on the massive popularity of this show.
Capital Wasteland lies. Oh, I always know I've made an actually funny joke where people go,
when me and Ben respond like we're seeing an eclipse.
Yeah.
Or the noise you'd make if you got home and like there'd been an earthquake and all your shit's on the ground. You go, ooh. That's a very strange example to give. But
like, like we're at the end of an Amy ad.
If you were one of those people who your boss is coming around for dinner in a Ajax spray and wipe ad.
The house is flooded.
Yeah, but then a lady with red hair in a pencil skirt is like, it's going to be okay.
Don't worry, I've got a headset that can't be connected to anything, but I'm wearing it right now.
Yeah.
But no, this is if you've recently come around to Fallout and you think that Fallout 4 seems too old and haggard to engage with, well, this is as good as it's going to get. A couple of Fallout skins in Fortnite.
Yeah, what are they chucking in there? The power armor?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Cool.
More and more people in IRL, not gamers that I know, getting around this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know are watching it.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
And like, if you wanted to make some quick money...
and I do.
Without having to develop a whole new game, get some shit into Fortnite.
Nah, fuck.
Yeah.
You know what? Fallout...
You had me for the first couple of
Epic has to
points.
want you to put your stuff in it.
Yeah.
Fallout Pokies. Just slap a
Oh.
Goggins skin over the top of the Queen of the Nile.
Yeah.
that's not a bad idea. 3
The
rad roaches.
Ghoul of the Wasteland. Easy done.
Yeah.
Speaking of the pokies, it is a gamble every time you pre-order a game, which you are now able to do with a few games that have been announced or leaked.
Okay.
That's the transition I'm going to go with into these subjects.
What am I putting my money down on?
You could put it down for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which was formerly Assassin's Creed Red.
Yeah.
They showed a bit of that off. It is set in 1500s Japan, featuring 2 playable characters.
Yes.
One of whom is it Yasuke? Is that his name?
Don't remember.
I don't remember either, but like...
Yes, Queen.
Okay. One of their real life historical figure plays where like remember in like 2 and shit you like met Leonardo da Vinci
Yes.
and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But you're playing as
And the Pope.
did you meet the Pope?
Yeah.
He was
Yep.
like a bad guy, wasn't he? Was he a pretend Pope or a real Pope? I don't remember.
I don't remember. Why wouldn't they just make it oh, maybe they get complaints.
The bit at yeah,
Yeah, it's Yasuke.
yeah,
Yasuke.
right.
There's a whole, I read an
Bet
article
I'm
about
pronouncing
this.
it right by saying Yasuke.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, Queen.
Yeah, he's the Black
I've
Samurai.
come around to it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that's that guy. Yes.
Real life sort of historical figure that
Yes.
they're chucking in with. Then I think a also fictional character is your second one, sort
Yeah.
of like Syndicate.
One's a samurai, one's a shinobi, I think, from memory.
Sure.
So slightly different play styles. One's more stealthy and one's less stealthy,
Yeah.
I guess.
Bit of stuff. It's meant to come out in November, and it sounds like they're making another Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, have we talked about this? The glut of like samurai era games.
It's crazy how it went from like seeing, I guess, for me, it probably was Ghost of Tsushima being
Yep.
like, oh, cool, this is interesting.
Yep.
A game set in this kind of world, and to now it's like this being announced. It's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, another one.
It seems
Yeah.
like a lot because there was that one that just came out that none of us have played yet, Rise of the Ronin.
Yes.
And they put out that remaster of the Yakuza game.
Yes, Ishin.
Last year or whatever that was.
Also, like Neo, previous to Rise of the Ronin, were like that. And the other one, Wolong. And
Yeah.
then
Sort of, yeah. They're in different...
Sekiro
Sort of,
and
but they all kind of have like the similar kind of vibe and feel to
Yeah.
them. And appealing to a sort of similar kind of taste, I guess.
Ghost of Tsushima has become immediately like the fastest selling PlayStation game that they've put on PC
Yeah.
so
Right.
far. People are loving it.
Yep.
The kids are calling it feudal Japan.
I don't know if this was what you were going to say, Knox. I remember. Was that what you were going to say?
I have no idea. I didn't know I was going to say anything.
You remember being a black samurai in a past life?
That's correct. I
You're
remember
always saying that to justify a bunch of shit that it doesn't help with.
being a Assassin's Creed fan early days, and everyone was like, okay, if they're going to change the location, the setting, they've got to make it a ninja. It's got to be Japan. It's got to be feudal Japan. It's got to be a ninja.
As soon as they went, to 2, and it was a different person, different place.
Right.
Immediately, it
It
was...
does seem crazy that it's taken them this long to tap into that when it's like that sort of like, ninja. It's like you're sneaking, it's like they did Vikings before they did
Was
something
one
that's
of-
known for being in the shadows and stealth.
I think one of the 2D ones that they did for a little window there was maybe Assassin's Creed Japan.
I think it was China.
There was China, and there were 2 others. One was in Russia, and I think the third was Japan.
Okay.
Maybe. I could have that wrong. It might have been... No, Egypt was it. I don't remember. But
That's okay. You have a condition. We now know that. It's an excuse.
that's me.
It's
I
a
ain't-
reason.
I ain't a shampoo. I'm a... Fuck off. Good thing I don't have any memory of that one to keep me up at night.
Wait, that was one of the 2D ones.
Maybe,
Okay.
but I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
Japan is a good place to go if you love double Ds.
However,
Now,
hearing Assassin's Creed,
Let's gloss over it.
all the rumors about Red were
Yep.
that it was going to be like a platform for Assassin's Creed moving forward.
Oh, yeah.
sure.
Remember that they were going to sort of spread the thing out to be more of like, I don't know if this is a good comparison necessarily, but like Destiny 2 is the game I think of when it's like not quite an MMO, but it is an ongoing thing or whatever.
yeah.
So I don't get the impression that this is anything like that.
No,
This seems
no.
to just be them doing an Assassin's Creed game similar to the ones they were doing for a bit before Mirage. I think it's more in the
Yeah.
style of... They haven't shown any gameplay yet, I don't believe.
No, I think, yeah, you're right. It was just a CGI trailer for sure.
Maybe some in-game screenshots and stuff too and whatever,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
nothing proper. So I don't know if it's in the style of Valhalla and Odyssey and Origins, but...
Right.
What was the there was What was the last one? There was one like inside the last year or something,
Mirage,
right?
that was.
Right.
That was
right.
like they're more of a throwback to the original type.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the
You
one
played some
before
of that,
that
right?
had been Valhalla.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
And that
Then
was
Odyssey before that. Then
Yeah, sure.
Origins before that.
Yeah. No, and like Mirage was like fine, but it still was the epitome of Ubisoft open world game.
Yeah.
Like it didn't remove any of that stuff. It just like streamlined the combat and made it a bit more about like running over rooftops and shit.
And they're saying there'll be a Far Cry 7 reveal at the upcoming sort of conferences and shit in the next couple of weeks.
What is it?
the like
Ubisoft Forward? Is that their one? I think.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing that one specifically.
Yeah,
from
right.
memory, but
there's the like the week where E3 would have been that is sort of
Right.
now Summer Games. That's kind of the kind of fake umbrella of like when stuff is kind of happening anyway.
a useless tool, a fake
Yeah.
umbrella, just to look cool, but it doesn't protect you from the rain.
Well, if you're a mime, it's one of the most essential
Bread and
tools in
butter,
your
actually, yeah.
big fake invisible toolbox.
I left my glass box at home.
Rope,
Yep.
umbrella. Those are the big two.
Glass box, juggling
box,
balls. I think mimes pretend to juggle sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stairs
Oh.
behind something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Downstairs.
Yeah.
Getting your dick out if you're a modern mime in a comedy festival for some reason. You don't mime
Well,
that.
if you want
just
an award.
actually do it.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Oh, I guess I just don't know French culture. All right.
Don't know how that
my
works
fault.
thematically, but
That's in line with French culture.
So a couple other things that have been rumored around that got properly announced, but then these are a couple. So I'll go.
I shan't be pre-ordering, by the way.
oh, you don't want that steelbook?
No. Unless it was a fake invisible steelbook.
I hate getting the fucking steel. The last couple of times I bought something physical at JB, thinking, I'll get this in case I want to, return it or sell it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just like comes with a whole fucking second. But it's like this is already taking up too much room on the shelf.
Yeah.
Now I've just got 2 boxes for this damn thing.
I'm all out on physical editions. I'm bought mental editions only for the last little bit.
Yeah, it's very rare that I go fizz.
Yeah. I have done the same thing where the past couple of games where I'm like, I think I'm going to want to return this.
If
Brother,
I'm like,
I did.
yeah, if I'm out and about and it pops into my head, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm walking past a JB.
Yeah.
I'll grab that. But yeah.
I saw a guy get on the train the other day holding just a PS4 box.
Oh, yeah.
It looked like, and I strained to try and see what it was, just to get an idea
Yeah.
of like what are people getting these days.
Yeah.
Single game on the train.
Yeah.
Couldn't figure it out.
Right. I thought
Probably
you
like
meant
2K or something.
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the,
I thought you meant the boxes in like the
sure.
console.
Then I would have figured it out.
Buying a console and bringing that
Yeah.
back home from the shops, especially if you're on public transport,
Ooh.
that's high stress.
Yeah, that's
because it's a
danger.
big enough bag and box that like everyone just knows your business.
It makes you feel like you're in one of those like armored vans when they've got the back open to try and move the money,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you can tell they're on edge. This is the part where I can really make or break my day here."
They're going to
Those
break the
guys,
Joker
like-
out of my JB Hi-Fi bag.
Those guys restocking the ATM at the 7-Eleven.
Oh.
Trying to
Oh.
look like they feel casual, but you can tell they're on edge.
Yeah. Do you get the urge to just steal some of that money? That intrusive thought?
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it looks so. I know he's timed it out in Groundhog Day when he
Yeah.
walks up and just steals it.
Yep.
But I reckon you could pull that off in real life pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at it and you're like, I don't think for a second that I'd get away with it, but I could just try.
Yeah.
I have
Right.
the option right now
Yeah.
of just going up and trying. Isn't that
think-
crazy?
you think-
I have free will.
You
Yeah.
think Chubb's going to rumble me? No way.
It's like when you see a cop sort of standing next to you and the gun's in the holster and you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
I
every
could just
time.
take that gun, shoot myself in the head.
Yeah.
Gunk. What would he do?
Chubb is
Oh.
such a stupid name.
Chubb.
Oh, it's crazy.
Armor guard, it's all there. That's what
Yeah.
you. That's really giving you peace of mind about what the business is capable.
I wonder
of.
which came first, because like if Chubb's first, like brother, Armor Guard was right there.
I know. And they're only driving little vans. They should be driving semis.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
Chubb would have come first because the people who started Armor Guard would have seen the name of Chubb and been like, these cunts are asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, which is the worst thing that they could possibly
Exactly.
be.
Valve is making a game.
Okay.
Ooh.
Once again, there were leaks from insiders, alpha testing this or whatever seems to be the case.
Okay.
Well, get ready to de-enthuse that soon.
Okay.
Cool.
It is
So far, I'm 0 for 1 for pre-orders.
a MOBA-style hero shooter. Developed in part by the guy Ice Frog who did Dota.
And the pre-order bonus is like a little statue, a keychain, a steel book, and a poster.
Okay.
The art looks sort of boring to me, and it's not the type of game I like. So I didn't look too far into it, but there will be people who will be excited by this, I'm sure. I didn't get the sense that people actually really were from the tone I was seeing in comment sections and stuff.
Well, yeah.
Edit misread the title. Wow, this looks amazing.
I guess if you're a MOBA fan, then you're already pretty embedded.
But it's already quite a flooded market.
Right.
They take a fair amount of dedication and time. This one didn't seem to look inspiring to people, even though it's alpha stuff, so a lot of that is probably, of course, set to change.
Yep.
But Valve aren't necessarily hit machines like that game Artifact. That came and went. No one really cared.
When was that?
Within the last few years.
Wow.
The card game. Do you remember? Does that ring a bell?
No.
Competitive, exactly.
Yeah,
and they dropped it pretty quick, I'm fairly sure. Maybe never got out of beta or something, but people weren't super into that. And I don't know. This isn't trying to bark up my alley, so I'm not necessarily the person to
Bark
be
up your alley.
judge, jury, and executioner.
Wow, you've mixed 8
There's
metaphors there.
so many new sayings have been invented.
Not possible. Go back and check the
This
tape.
is what
I've
happens
said
when
it
you can't
perfectly.
remember things.
But I mean, you're right. Like Valve have the money and the resources to give stuff a crack. And if this comes off, it does seem like, it'd be huge. Like the potential, the ceiling of it is quite high.
Possibly.
So
making a
why
free
not?
game on the thing that people who play games on PCs all already have anyway.
Yeah.
Why not have
And then
have a go?
If it goes well, hey, sell some of that customization, monetize that shit.
Give me more hats.
Ew, girl.
Give me hats. Hats and belts in this game? Damn.
Fuck.
The other one, this is a rumor, but people, or the people reporting on it,
People are
we're
gossiping.
fairly sure about it. Total War?
Yeah.
Yes.
That thing we're rapidly approaching?
Yep.
The developer, Creative Assembly are working on a Total War Star Wars game.
Yeah.
They've done Warhammer in the past. They
have.
are open to...
Couple of times.
branded co-partnership, whatever, deals. And Star Wars is now free again as a license.
Yes.
It's outside of just EA's impound. So that could be cool.
Yeah, I mean, there were Star Wars RTSs back in the day.
There were.
Late
Galactic
early
Battlegrounds
2000s. Yeah.
Empire at War?
Yes, that was definitely a game.
That was the
I think
3D
that was-
space one, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Total War games are overall good. They're a very similar formula. People who like them.
I've liked them in the past. I think the general sentiment around them within the last few has kind of trickled downwards as well.
Right.
They've sort of... Pharaoh came out not that long ago.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
people didn't get set on fire by that.
I think the Warhammer 2 was pretty successful, though. And that was like 2 or 3 years
and
ago.
then Warhammer 3 has come out since then, and people didn't like that one as much.
Yeah, right.
So you get your eye back on the ball, baby. We're living in a new era. They are...
No pre-order.
They have made good games before, and a Star Wars one could be very cool. Star Wars has great designs for things like ships and stormtroopers and whatever. Star Wars lends itself the best to just using that art for something else.
Yeah.
So I could be open to it.
Okay, interesting.
I'm big enough to admit that. And then another one, while we're talking about them, why not? They put out a trailer for Elden Ring again.
Hey, this I'm pre-ordering as soon as I can.
I've got it. Well, you could do it right now. I've got it bought at home.
Maybe I already have as well. Then.
I'm looking forward to it.
When's this dropping?
June 21st.
Yeah,
So not long. That's a month.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. This is the official Nostradamus bet of the week.
Yep.
I
Ooh,
think
okay.
Elden Ring's DLC will be good.
I agree.
Shit.
And also Nostradamus.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, brother.
But yeah.
I didn't predict that would be possible.
Did you play the Colosseum game combat-y stuff?
Did a little tiny bit of it.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer stuff in those games isn't my focus with those necessarily.
Yeah.
But it was cool and good that they sort of added some bits and pieces to the game after launch. But this seems like it's big. The story trailer thing was cool as the FromSoft ones are.
Yeah.
Where you don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but damn, it looks nice and their art direction is so good. There's these big sort of walking around. I think we've both seen it, but you haven't, Tommy. Is that right? There's these big
trailer.
The trailer.
Can I answer honestly.
Yeah.
No, I've not seen it.
Whoa!
Fucking hell.
That's embarrassing to admit.
But I will say,
Yes.
I have lied to you several times already.
If you had killed Susan Berman, would you admit?
Good teaser for the for the Patreon episode. Listen to that tomorrow when it comes
We've
out.
been watching the Jinx
We've
season
been watching
2.
the Jinx. If you haven't listened to the Patreon in a while, sign up. We'll
Get
talk
onto
about
our
the Jinx.
Patreon. We're a listener-supported show.
We
Sign
very
up
much
to the
are.
Patreon and make our lives a little bit better,
Yeah.
please.
Patreon.com/filthycasualspod.
That's
if
right.
you were wondering. If you even care.
That's the way to plug the Patreon. Slide in a little gag
And then be like,
for something related to
To
other
understand
media.
that joke, if you want the setup, you've got to go get it somewhere else. Elden Ring.
it looks fantastic. The fucking monsters and shit in this trailer look
the
so
ones,
good.
especially, there are these big, huge, like. Do you call them? I'm gonna get the name wrong. They're like braziers, the things that hold fire.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, these huge, big, walking sort of.
Were you going to say
metallic-looking
braziers?
ones. I was going to say
else.
The Zumbas.
it was something almost as bad as that. I don't remember what it was.
Over-the-shoulder boulder
Bustier?
holders?
I think it was bustier. Was what I was going to say.
Sure, yeah.
Is that a type of corset? Hey, of course it is.
Yeah.
These guys love
it looks great.
These guys love just like an old school like household utensil, getting up and a big old pot.
Yeah.
And he's got arms and legs.
Yeah.
Some real Brothers Grimm motherfuckers
Ooh.
over there.
Oh,
shit,
What if
I'm
a
being-
spatula was after you?
Yeah.
Shit, a bidet just snapped my head off.
Yeah, no, it looks fucking sick. And I'm so excited to get back into that game.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that soon.
Yeah. It might end up being... Oh, no, it won't end up being my highest hours spent on a game. But it'll be up there. Because I reckon I put like 300 or so hours into
You
just the
did
base
you did
game.
like multiple playthroughs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If they chuck a card game in that thing, it's over for you.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing you can do if that
Nope.
happens.
When are we getting fucking Queen's Blood as its own?
Yeah.
I want Queen's Blood on my phone. I
Yeah.
want Queen's Blood mobile app.
Queen's Blood from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the card game or board game. I suppose it is more card and board. Card
Yeah.
game. You've got both.
Yeah.
You're putting cards on a board.
But you could play it without the board if you were stuck.
You
if
can
were
imagine the
camping.
board,
I
yeah.
You
suppose
can imagine
so.
the board.
It is funny how everyone has the full setup with the plastic castle and everything.
Yeah.
I love that.
No one's like, well, yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere, so
Yeah.
we'll play it on the table, but we
Yeah.
know what we're doing.
Traveling jazz band,
lanes,
they're
it's
coming
like-
with you. You can play without the board, but you do need the trumpeter.
Yes.
Do you want to hear a cool fact I learned? There's nothing to do with. There's another game thing, but I just think this is a very cool little,
What do you
little
think?
history piece of trivia.
you wanna hear
Sorry,
it?
we just need a moment to
Yeah.
confer
Yeah,
about
yeah.
whether we want to hear this.
So we've got like a few
It's
more
not-
things on the whiteboard
yeah,
to
it's
get
not
through.
related to anything that we were just talking about.
Is it?
But
Should
it
we
is
ask if it's related?
games
It is games related. Is that
related.
what he said?
Yeah, I mean, I feel
Okay.
like we were sort of done talking Queen's Blood, so I
don't even
for
know where we
me,
started.
It being unrelated to that is a positive.
Probably a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get back on topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we say yes?
Well, he's also admitted earlier that he has like basically no memory.
Ah,
So
yeah.
who's to say if what we're hearing will even be?
He's probably forgotten it by now.
Yeah, exactly. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's do something crazy.
Okay.
Let's hear his fun fact.
All right.
Okay, Adam.
Sorry, I misread the thread. It was a fun fart. No, I've got one. You know,
Chad, is this real?
where jazz came from, like in the south of America,
Yes.
a lot of the reason jazz started to happen is because after the Civil War, so many of the like Confederate bands who were playing in the armies just left their fucking instruments behind. So there were all these unclaimed tubas and shit sitting around, all these
Wow.
trumpets, and then people would get them for free because you
Yep.
could just pick them up off of the field and start playing them without like formal training. So they played them in different ways that you'd never heard before.
Yeah.
And that's how jazz happened.
Can I tell you, Ben was adamant that we not hear that fact, and I'm so glad I pushed back
Yeah.
because that's genuinely very interesting.
That is.
'Cause it's a fun fact, but the fact that if you were so willed, you could twist that into like, so technically the Confederates invented jazz.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one of those but yeah, I love history, man.
Yeah, it's
so
pretty
cool.
good.
And I'll tell you an interesting piece of Kirby history now.
Okay.
Okay, he's pink. He's round.
Yeah,
But he
he
used to be
sucked up a
white.
tuba and then he invented jazz.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was white at one point.
A terrible tuba impression. Was
Okay.
he white?
On the the cover of the first game, he's just like, yeah, he's white.
Oh.
So there's no, I mean, sorry, it's no fucking soldiers leaving a drawing of Kirby behind.
I
I've
wish
set the
you'd
bar,
let
sorry.
Adam and I.
No, that's on you guys. You insisted that I read out that
I know
fact.
the bar's there, but it's high jump, not limbo. All right, we've got to have another run at that one.
Shit.
Sakurai,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby himself. I don't know if you remember from all your time playing that game for babies.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have seen a Dolby splash screen at the start.
Yeah, right.
There is no Dolby surround in Kirby.
In Kirby's Air Ride, specifically.
Air Ride specifically was where the contentious
GameCube game, it was like around that era where that's kind of starting to become the default thing for games. It's this new tech.
and you turn it on the game every time on the GameCube, having to watch all the splash screens at the start. And
Yep.
Sakurai refused to put Dolby surround in because he didn't want people to sit through that extra little bit of Dolby, and I fucking love that.
I love it too,
wild
but it also
reason.
like it kind of doesn't make sense because it's like that's very much a mentality that people have now with like putting stuff on YouTube or Instagram. It's like, you know, people are like just scrolling through. You got to grab their attention immediately, but it's like if people are sitting down and seeing the Dolby logo at the start of Kirby's Air Ride, they've bought the game.
They're a captive audience.
They're in.
He's not thinking about it cynically like that, like monetization. He's thinking about it artistically. How dare I waste people's time?
Yeah.
All up, added together, he's added thousands of human years to the planet. But I don't know if people played that much Kirby
Yeah.
Air Ride.
But
It's
he's
funny to
made-
have that level of like artistic particular
yeah.
decision and then still make Kirby's Air Ride.
That was the quote from him. He's like, if it's 1 second and 10,000 people play it, that's 10,000 seconds of people's time that I've wasted.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I mean, that's all true, but I don't really know.
But then is not the audio for the game worse?
Yeah.
So isn't that more of an artistic
It's
priority?
not surround, but if you're sitting there playing Kirby's Air Ride and you're like, damn, Kirby's behind me, maybe you'd care.
Yeah.
Most
people are playing on like just a CRT TV with built-in speakers.
Well, that's it.
It's a
Yeah.
one-button
reason,
game. You
right?
can play with a broken controller.
Wow.
I've,
you can play
I've-
with your nose only.
Yeah. Nose is only round this time, boys.
It's the first truly accessible game. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need that Xbox accessibility pad
Yeah.
with Kirby's Air Ride. I've got it. I've played a tiny little bit of it, and I'm keen to go back in now, knowing that was like I love the idea that he's done that, but then there's like an unskippable 10-minute cutscene at the start. Like
Right.
anything that's in there that I deem to be a waste of time, I'm now going to see through fresh and very harsh eyes.
Send him an invoice for your time.
This means so much to you.
Well, I did this race and I lost it, and now I've got to play again.
Yeah.
So what a waste of my time.
It's somehow this Kirby game should have been easier.
Speaking of wasting your time,
yes.
Hellblade 2 is out now.
Oh, well, it won't be wasting much of your time.
Senua's Sacrifice?
No, that was the first
Oh.
one. This is Senua's Saga : Hellblade 2.
Yes.
Oh my God.
They flipped the script and then changed nothing else. No, I'm being jokingly harsh. I
Well,
played
Mental
only a bit of
health
it
is
too.
back, baby.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, you've played some of it. I read a bunch of reviews of it. Yesterday, day before as well.
Just yesterday, because all the shit only came
Right.
out like not that long before we were recording.
Because we had
Right,
our
right.
conspiracy theory. We were talking about like this is like one of, you know, Microsoft have been talking about this for a while. Like it's been on the slate for ages.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it's about to come out and then we're saying nothing about it. And we had our conspiracy theory that like, do they maybe know that it's like, is it going to tank? Is it going to get really bad? You know, is it bad?
Is
But
it bad?
It's got pretty good reviews.
It's kind of been a mixed bag.
It's divisive. I understand why. I've only played about an hour and a half or
It's
something.
like an 80
maybe.
something on Metacritic, which is
Right.
like pretty, you know.
But
Yeah.
I don't care what other people think. What about what we think?
Yeah, well,
Let's get real. We'll talk about it more next week, I imagine.
I was going to say, we can talk about what one of us thinks.
I
which
care more about what strangers think, honestly. You guys, I could take
And
or
yet
leave.
you dress like that.
Yeah, no, I know what you guys are going to say about it. I want to see what Jason Schreier says about
Oh,
There's all across the board sort of thoughts about it because it is doing very much what it's doing in a similar way to the first one. I think
it. You've played about an hour, you said?
a little over maybe the first sort of few bits, which is like a quarter of the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's, like 1/6 of the game or
yeah.
something.
Not super long, same as the first one. It looks fucking amazing.
Right.
Okay.
It really looks good.
Are you playing it on the box?
I am playing it on the personal computer.
Okay.
Yeah,
personally.
okay.
Yep.
That's where I'll have to play it as well.
That's where I would play it if I were going to play it. I may play it, but I probably will not. Because
But-
I did not like the first one.
No, and this is the same. You won't like this one. I didn't
Okay.
like the first one
Well,
either.
Okay, now I'm interested.
Now that the challenge has been set,
Now that I know that I definitely won't like it.
it's the same. You're doing a
Right.
bit of combat here and there of sword fighting where you've got like a light, heavy, a block, a dodge.
Yep.
And it's very simple and easy. It does feel like I saw this comparison, and here's Mr. Teapot coming in to talk
Okay.
about the kettle.
Yep.
I saw a comparison that I thought
Is this
was
Elden
fitting,
Ring?
where this is like the modern version of like Dragon's Lair style FMV games.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
Where all you're doing is watching the story. The hardest part of this game for me so far has been trying to figure out when I'm meant to be holding the stick up or when the game is just doing it itself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like there'll be parts where you think it's a cutscene and oh no, she stopped climbing the rocks. Okay, I guess I'll keep holding it.
Oh
which
man, what a
is-
beautiful analogy for mental illness. That's what it's like, brother.
You just got to keep your finger on, apply more pressure at all times,
At all
and you'll
times,
get through it.
whether you need it or not,
Yeah.
you probably won't. But if you do, that's good.
Yes.
It's very cinematically presented. In visually, I don't think chops wise, it's necessarily there for me.
It's not up to the movie standards of.
I don't think that this is cinema.
Okay.
It's no
personally.
grown-ups too.
Yeah.
It's presented in like a letterbox sort of 21:9 format type
Okay.
of thing. Again, very
Well, that's
cinema.
annoying.
Yeah.
And are you going into the settings, fucking around with the resolution? Like, how do I get rid of this
can't.
goddamn black bar?
those black bars are there the whole time.
Wow.
There's no there. It's to make it run well is my assumption.
Sure.
About it. There are mods that already you can undo it and it
Oh yeah.
God, that's
tanks
good.
the performance.
Hell yeah.
Right. Right.
Which has been like okay for how good it's just an Unreal Engine sort of game, but it does look very good.
Okay.
The story is the same bullshit as the first one, where it to me is this very ham-fisted, inelegant approach towards the mental health issues that it is, by its own admission, putting front and center by literally having the front of the game be in the center of the screen talking about this game tackles mental health issues. Please be forewarned.
Yeah.
And I don't like the way that it does it. I think it's cheesy and cartoonish and like I'm going to say the word disrespectful from my perspective. They mention how they have people who have a wide variety of experiences working on this and people who are experts, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the end product you're making is going to be reflective of your intentions. And I don't think this game, in a similar way to how I didn't feel the first game, pulls it off.
Yeah, I
right,
felt
right.
like I'm trying to, because I remember the first one coming out and just all of a sudden like getting a lot of immediate praise, and so going in on it based on that, and yeah, kind of feeling the same way, that it was just very like on the nose, and I like stuff that talks about that as a theme.
Me
like
too,
I've
yeah.
had my experiences with it. I liked like I thought Undertale had some stuff in that realm that was really nicely done, but this just really explicit, like you walk around and your character is hearing voices that you are hearing at all times. I just found it kind of on the nose and a bit inelegant and like not, I like a character who you're playing as and it turns out it's a, metaphor for depression and all that kind of stuff as it like slowly unravels, but it's like, it's still just an enjoyable game to play. I just did not find it the first one like I don't know, and like I know like I'm in the minority because it worked for a lot of people, and like a lot of people who've been through those things found it very like powerful and impactful and really appreciated that it was, talking about this stuff on a bigger scale. But yeah, I'd fall in the same camp as you. I just found it a bit like inelegant and just like not the style of presentation of that kind of theme that resonates with me.
My impression as well is that people have more varied opinions on the first one since its release too.
Sure.
Right. But yeah, I really liked the first one. I didn't find it like literally relatable in what it was dealing with, but I thought it was fine. Like I thought that stuff was dealt with in a fine way. And then I liked the puzzles and the combat, and I thought it looked fantastic as well, that one. Like,
the second one looks amazing. The puzzles suck.
Right.
They're just walking around and fucking angling the shapes to look right, so to find them. They don't work. they're boring. The combat is dull. Like, I'm going to finish playing it because it's so short and it's like a big game that's coming out or whatever. And it's not awful. It just really is doing things that I often very much like in games.
Right.
And I think doing them poorly.
Yeah,
It does seem a bit like the impression that I get from what people are saying about this one so far. Like, they've been working on it for quite a long time, and it kind of seemed like it is just a bit more of the same. The fact, like, don't get me wrong, love a short game, but it kind of, for it being, and it's obviously this is not to do so much with them, but it being one of Microsoft's kind of big things that they acquired, like it kind of felt like, yeah, there was maybe, I really expected that this would come out and I'd be like, all right, I got to eat my words on this franchise. Like, this is going to really get me in. But it does kind of sound like it's just a bit of like the same thing again.
I think for all the scale of the presentation and like the very competent technical stuff, the lack of ambition seemingly beyond anything outside of the technical presentation, attempt at storytelling stuff is just, it reminds me of like Rise, Son of Rome and games that I think it hoodwinks people into thinking it's more than it is because it's pretentious. Like that I really don't like that first game. So the second game is doing more of that as I'm going in, so I don't expect that. But again, I'm very early in, so this is not a review. This is my impressions of the beginning of it, but it's giving me that same feeling that is a little hard to fully express because it is such a vibe-based thing, and it is such a disconnect with the game's intent that it's one of those things where when you get 90% of the way to something, it's more horrifying to watch Evel Knievel almost jump a canyon and then crash than it is to watch him give up before trying. Does that make sense? And this is that, where it's like, damn, I'd love to see a dude jump over a canyon on a motorbike. Oh, no!
Yeah. I remember with the first one, some people being like, no, but you got to play it with the headphones on.
I am.
And then you get the... Yeah, and I was like, that just sounds not for me. Then it sounds like the voices are really in your head.
Wasting my time with all that Dolby shit at the start as well to make it happen.
Is Sakurai giving this one a go? I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about it that really grates on me. Because
it's funny because like a lot of the reviews that I read that were critical weren't critical of that stuff. They were like, well, they were critical of like the combat being very simplistic and not much evolved from the previous one, and like it being too short. But I think that those are the things that will turn me off. Of like, well, if it's not much better than a game that is quite old now, and wasn't connecting with me based on how good its combat and puzzles were at the time, it's like, well, this is just going to feel kind of dated, except for the cutscenes, which are like, not really the most important thing about it.
Yeah, it feels almost like a visual novel.
Yes,
and that has been sort of
that's largely why I think the slightly more objective, but not objective, obviously, because it's a criticism of art, so it can't be. But the broader problem with this game, beyond my personal feelings on it, is that I do think it's quite boring as a result of its choices around what you're actually doing in that
mechanically,
game. And how it's presenting its story is slow and dull and like not inventive.
Well, if it's any consolation, the studio will be closed down in about 48 hours time. So
I hope not. And apparently they've already had a new thing greenlit internally, and I don't know if that's leaked in quotes out because Microsoft's trying to do a little bit of
damage control.
But I believe that is the case, that Ninja Theory has another thing.
And
of a different sort.
Activision have another thing in development, which again, is under the Microsoft thing, which feels like they've done a little bit of like, we are making games.
We make games. Yeah. We love it.
I've seen things as well since those sort of, initial reports that we were talking about last time were fairly fresh, of reasoning behind it, that there'd been a lot of turnover of management inside of those studios, and it made it sort of not viable to ramp them back up to production things and whatever. So, and of course they have their reasons, but also, cool, then that's a management problem that you then punish the people under management for.
I was listening to like a podcast where it was like a few developers talking about it, so they have a bit more of like the inside knowledge of how the companies like that are run, and they're like, Also, this is kind of obvious with like takeovers and mergers and stuff. Yeah, if you acquire a bunch of things that are the same kind of thing that you do already, they're going to have redundancies in those companies. So it's like they don't all need HR, they don't all need finance, they don't all need, Microsoft will have all of these departments already. So on top of that, once you get rid of those things, then maybe the creative people just, go join other parts of Microsoft,
Right.
which is why mergers and acquisitions are bad. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like, no, that's not good for anyone
Yeah.
except for the person at the top who sees the number go up on the money.
Right.
But so even though we've talked about it a bit there, proper Hellblade 2 chat next week, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm interested to see if you respond to this one differently to the first one at all.
Yeah.
Or because the specific stuff of just how it reads to me of like, got problems, scream and persist. Like
right.
that's an extremely shallow repetition of how I feel about it that I'm saying for time's sake more than anything. But there's something about it that doesn't ring pleasantly for me
okay.
in a way that is beyond what it is telling you it's saying.
Yeah, right.
Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
the execution that gives me a problem, like someone who's been sentenced to death.
That would
My
really
problem
give
is
me a
with the
problem.
execution.
Yeah.
Well, if you said the puzzles are no good.
Puzzles are too easy.
If you
and
want
dumb.
a game that's got some puzzles you can solve,
I
have
do,
I
but-
got a new experience for you?
A new
It's a little
experience?
game called Braid 10th Anniversary Edition that's just come out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Is it? It's got
Weird. I don't know why it's called 10th
no, it's
Anniversary
from
Edition.
2008.
No. Yeah. What?
Is it called 10th Anniversary Edition?
It's definitely Anniversary Edition.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's just
Sorry, maybe I
anniversary.
just made that up. Maybe it's just Anniversary Edition. But
Ah,
what?
well, I'll get mad at you instead of them.
Yeah, I
then.
wonder what.
Come here and let me punch you.
What?
That's what I do.
If only you could go back in time and say this correctly.
Yeah.
2008, 100%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 2008. So that means it's just a random
Just anniversary.
note,
Yeah.
not a number of note.
The 16th anniversary, Sweet 16 edition.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
It doesn't say that on it, though, does it?
It does. Drake's been playing a lot of it. I had a look at this. I got excited when this was coming up.
Right.
Because I saw some stuff about like it's got like 40 new levels and it's not actually that many.
Oh, okay.
And there's a few new ones, but that 40 includes some developer commentary stuff that they're counting as levels.
Oh, yeah,
Which is
right.
cool to have in
Right.
there.
Yeah.
But that's what I heard was kind of the appeal was like, the commentary stuff and the like, oh, this is how you make this kind of game. It's a bit of insight for people who are, want to be
And I think
developers.
they've redone a lot of the music and the
Oh, yeah.
graphics and stuff. Like I read a thing of him kind of saying like, yeah, when he was doing the art originally, that you weren't thinking, oh, 4K will be a thing one day.
Right.
So they kind of went back in and sort of like redid all that so that it looks like nice and crisp if you've got like a 4 or 8K monitor or whatever. It does really read as like one of those like a lot of what Nintendo do with their remakes and re-releases. It's maybe just assuming that like you never got around to it at the like it's more just like putting it front and center again to kind of catch people that never got around to it in the first place.
or weren't born yet.
Yeah.
Did it get re-released on consoles and stuff after the 360? I know there's a piece, or I think there's a PC version from back then.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
no, because it's not been put on Switch yet. Because I kind of assumed it would have been one of those things that just had been like ported
Chuck
to
it
like
everywhere.
every new
Yeah,
thing
yeah, yeah.
once it comes out. So this is like it's like I've been playing it on the Switch, which is like the first time it's appeared on there. So you're very familiar with this game,
Braid
Adam.
is sick. Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess it's like the first not the first like truly independent game, but probably like one of, if not the first like kind of indie game in terms of like what we think of as an indie game, like sort of stylistically and
It was definitely a unique thing at the time of this game is only on Xbox Live Arcade, but it's a proper game, but it's small, but it's 2D.
and it's
but
like one dude made it because I
Yeah.
remember like when it came out watching that film Indie Game the Movie, which is about the guys who made Super Meat Boy. They released that game like in the course of the documentary. The guy who's working on Fez and is just in absolute hell with it, and the film ends with them basically going, who knows if Fez will ever come out. And Braid has come out and is like, the man himself, Jonathan Blow, is the sort of, he's like the success story of like the god of indie games, and like he's in the film quite a lot as like the guy who's like, oh, this is the guy that like did it kind of first. Like he's painted in the film as like,
Braid was a real
pioneer.
He paved this game kind of paved the way, and like this is the big success story of like making something yourself as a passion project.
Totally. In the way where it's like Jaws was the first summer blockbuster or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it did happen, but
Yeah,
it
you
was
had
like
Spartacus and shit, but
here's fucking how you do it.
Here's the blueprint for like now and from now on.
Yeah, as
and
the
Braid
one
is
that,
also just a good game.
Yeah, I don't really know how I'm feeling about it coming to it fresh.
Bit dated?
The first bit of it, I was kind of like powering through and really enjoying. And like as I'm getting deeper and deeper into it, so that if you don't know, it's a 2D platformer where you have the ability to rewind time, and there'll be things in the level that are immune to your movement of time. So you can move time back, and this thing is going to still move forward, so you might need to like coordinate these two things kind of meeting in the middle, and it all kind of intensifies from there. And I kind of got to this point where it seems to be a lot more like kind of platform, like timing and movement based, more so than like kind of cleverly solving the puzzle.
Okay.
If that's fair to say. Like the first bit of it, you're like, you got this screen, you're sort of looking for a solution, and then you get it and you can execute on it. And then I'm sort of at this point where I'm having to like jump onto this at just the right time, and then make sure that it's become a bit more, mechanically finicky, platformy, which is fine, but I just am not like as into when it's doing that stuff. That's the stuff that makes it feel a little dated to me.
Sure. That makes it, from memory, it's one of those ones where each of the sort of worlds or the segments of levels have their own different focus. So one of them is probably that, and then afterwards there's, I think you have to move a key that isn't affected by time from one end to the other or whatever. And so
I think I'm on that one. That one's driving me insane.
It'll go up and down how much you maybe gel or don't with each theme, perhaps.
And there are some mechanics that are like, there's some bits of it that where it doesn't feel dated at all. And then there are bits where it's like, this is a little kind of fidgety, and probably could, if you were making something like this now, you would make it a little kind of clearer what's happening.
I remember having the feeling of trying to line up one of those little squishy ball guys just exactly right so I could jump on it to somewhere else or whatever, and it being finicky. And
exactly. Bits where it gets away from like, it's less like mechanical finesse of like a platforming segment and less of solving the puzzle, because it's like, I've solved the puzzle, I can do I'm happy to do like a section that is like straight up platforming that's like, I might get the jump wrong or whatever, but it's like kind of when the combination of the two just kind of starts to feel like a bit unfair, and you're like, I know what to do and I know how to do it, and I don't feel like this is even like a fair challenge in a platforming sense. It's just challenging because it's like a little fidgety and annoying. It's not challenging in like a tough Mario timed platforms kind of way.
I remember it being one of those ones sometimes where you'd come up with a solution and then think you'd gotten it wrong because it seemed impossible to actually do. So you thought, I must be trying something that the game doesn't want me to do here because this is fucked. And then you realize, oh no, it does want me to do that. It's just stupid and hard.
And there's like, I'm up to this one bit where like you've got this
spending that extra time figuring out a puzzle you've already solved because performing the solution doesn't feel
it's just not
right.
programmed properly.
Like you've got this key that is just kind of like moving around on like a set kind of path, as long as you've picked it, like it's always going to follow the same kind of movement pattern, and it takes you a while to figure that out. And it's also in this segment where if you move to the right of the screen, time moves forward. If you move to the left, it moves back. And so you've kind of got a trial and error around like making this key get picked up by an enemy that then moves to there, that then you can jump on him and get the key, but then you can't fit into that bit where the key has turned up. And it just kind of means that you can get into this point where, because of the way time is moving for the key, you just get stuck and you have to like restart the whole thing.
Right.
So you kind of can't be like dicking around and doing like trial and error and being like, let me pick this thing up and go over here and let me now like jump up here. And like you just get into a bit where like if you're walking back, the key is also moving back, but the whole thing of it is just like it's now just trapped.
You've botched the puzzle.
Yeah, it's
Right.
trapped
Restart
permanently
it.
within there, and then you have to like restart. And not like you have to go back to the beginning of an area and
Go
that's a
back
big
one
drag or
screen
anything.
whatever, right? Yeah.
But it's just like it just is a little bit of a like it's like, yeah, it's not as fun with a puzzle thing if you can't just be in the one area. You know, Portal, you can just kind of like run around and be like, I'll put this here, I'll put this here. Like you kind of need to, I think in a good puzzle game like this, you kind of always need to be able to like really quickly just like reset and recalibrate and go, okay, let me just put this back to like where it was, and what if I go up here?
This was a lot of the stuff people were really figuring out around that time too, because Super Meat Boy is the one I remember people being like, you immediately restart.
Yes.
You die
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
boom, you're right there back again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like
Maybe
it's-
that's a part of it that is a little dated.
Yeah, and it, you know, like on the one hand, it's maybe a little harsh to judge it on those standards because it is an old game, but it also has been like, you know, re-released and like retuned over, but it is. I mean, I am overall enjoying it. Like, it's the look of it is cool, and it is also like, yeah, putting myself into the mindset of someone playing this when it came out as just a like, you would have had to be really like, you know, up on your current tech of like getting on an online store and like playing this as a like off the back of, you know, big studio releases and things being officially like playing this as like a weird little thing that a dude made
And it
back when it
feeling like
came
this
out would have felt
strange-
incredible.
This strange retro throwback when that hadn't really been something that people were doing yet because it was just 2D and things like that.
Right.
And it is like it's riffing on Mario. Like the little guys are clearly Goombas. There's little
Right.
piranha plant pipe guys. There's like a joke about the princess being in another castle. So it like, again, that's a thing where it really shows its age and really shows that it is the first of this kind of thing of like
Right.
a thing like a game coming out that like even just like overtly riffs on another game is like would have been a kind of crazy conceit at the time.
It was weird it seeming at the time as though someone from Newgrounds had found $1 million and snuck their way onto the Xbox.
Right.
But it looks
you know?
beautiful. It's this like very like hand-drawn watercolor sort of style. I'd recommend it in spite of my like slight sort of mechanical frustrations with it. It's great that it's gotten a re-release and that it exists now as a thing that, I mean, it is such an important part of like games history, and especially like I'm such a fan of indie games and seeing the sort of like the ground zero of the sort of thing that, you know, leads us to something like Dredge and, you know, games like that.
Animal
it
Well.
is, yeah, it is cool. It's like it is. I'm glad that they've re-released it and kind of polished it up. Not that I played the original, so I don't really have the context for like exactly how, but it doesn't, in terms of like the look and the presentation of it, just playing it doesn't, you know, it looks like it could be a new game. It doesn't look dated in that way.
This and Cave Story at the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
directly lead to Animal Well,
Yeah.
and those almost 20 years ago now were the wow.
Yeah.
Video games can be anything, man.
Yeah. They
And
can
what
be
about
funny and
2D
silly.
platformer?
It's funny. It's like
Yeah.
saying Braid was the like, you know, it's taken. It's only just now on Switch with this anniversary edition. Because on the other hand, Cave Story, that was one of the first things I played on the Switch
Yeah.
when I went overseas, and it was like the first 6 months of it being out, and that was on there, and just being like, oh well, there's not much else out on this thing, so I'll play this Cave Story game that I've always heard about. But yeah, I'd recommend picking it up if you like your indies, if you like your puzzle platformers. It's cool. I want to stick with it, but I'm just like, I just got up to this bit that was just like mechanically really, really frustrating me and had to step away for a bit. But
Just because it's playing on my mind as well, I want to reiterate, I didn't play very much of Hellblade 2 yet. I felt as though I was being too harsh for early impressions. Like someone who sneaks off to the bathroom 10 minutes into a first date, which you can do.
Sure.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? I
Oh,
wanna
my
reiterate.
auntie's calling me. She's sick. I have to go.
Sorry, my auntie says you only live once, so see ya. Fuck off. We'll talk about it more next week. I'm preparing for the eventuality that I turn around on it or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
I wonder.
just was thinking about it.
It's like it hasn't been. I wonder, if our listeners have gone in, if they've played much of it yet.
It's
like,
on Game Pass, worth reiterating.
True.
Things.
So probably people will give it a crank. But yeah, no, that's fair enough.
I'll tell you something people should give a crank. Mother 3. I've been playing that on the Game Boy Advance.
Earthbound.
No.
Earthbound 2.
Earthbound
Yeah.
2,
Earthbound 0 is what they sort of call Mother 1 in
Earthbound
re-release.
Beginnings, I think it's called.
Oh, maybe Earthbound 0 was when it was like ROM translated.
Yeah,
back in
yeah,
the
yeah.
day or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Earthbound, and then this has never been
Right.
officially translated, but there is a fan translation, which is how I've been playing it, which is, I mean, it's hard to imagine it being like it. It's pretty. I keep forgetting that I'm not playing technically an official game,
Right.
and I'm now in the camp of people who are like, why has this never been re-released? Because
Yeah.
it's fucking great.
It's a big camp, smelly camp.
Oh yeah. Talking about like the games dealing with like big issues and mental health and stuff, like this is doing all of that in like a really kind of weird, neat, interesting way. It's got this like really like brutal beginning. So it started development as a Nintendo 64 game, and you can find there's like a lot of footage of it that they, back in the era where they would show off heaps of something that ended up getting cancelled and then never seeing the light of day.
I feel like it's from a similar time to those Final Fantasy VI demos you saw on the Nintendo 64, where they were just sort of trying out what it would look like.
Yeah.
And to get that sort of thing.
The footage that exists of this, it looks a bit Final Fantasy VII in the like blocky kind of characters and stuff.
Right.
And then it got abandoned and then sort of just sat there for ages, and then they ended up picking it up for the Game Boy Advance and finishing it off. And it's funny because when you look at the footage of it that exists from the N64 version of it, it's like it's a lot of the same locations and characters and stuff. So they were like seems like pretty far along with something that they ended up sticking with the direction of it. But yeah, it's great. Like it's got a lot of like, you're sort of swapping around characters. Like you'll do like a little chapter as one guy, then you do another chapter as just like a kind of a random guy, and it's all these different people that live in the same town, and these like aliens have appeared, and it's like got this kind of family drama stuff in it. It's really cool. The writing is great. It's very like straightforward RPG combat kind of, but then it's got this thing
similar to Earthbound, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but then it's got, I don't know, I can't remember if Earthbound has this or not, but it's got almost like a Mario RPG thing where if you hit the attack button in time with the music, you can string together like, I think it's like up to 16 in a row.
That's fun.
And so every enemy has their own music with its own unique rhythm and beat that you just kind of like need to learn.
Right.
And there's like one of your characters can put enemies to sleep. And when they're asleep, the conceit is that you can like hear their heartbeat more clearly. And that's like the rhythm of the song that you're meant to be using for the timing. So like if you do that, that'll give you more of an insight into like, oh, okay, it's like boop, 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 boop.
Is it always on beat, or are there harder enemies to fight? They're like bop, 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 bop.
I think it's a bit of that.
Bop, bop, bop,
and
or whatever.
This is why I think it would
is that one specifically in it?
This is why I think it would be so. There are just like a couple of little things about it that are like, I think like the writing and the world and the overall like character design and everything is like just holds up perfectly. It getting like a full, like they did when they were promoting it, they had these little images that were like little clay models of all the figures.
Oh yeah.
And I just keep thinking like, man, if you did a redo of this like in that style,
Super Mario RPG.
yeah, because it is very like when you're in combat, it's like enemy and then just like a sort of generic backdrop. Like it's not like you're in the environment. Like it's that real,
like that Windows Media Player visualizer
that kind of
type
thing,
right?
Yeah.
It is great because especially post the success of things like Undertale,
Yeah.
that are directly riffing on Earthbound and Mother 3, for Nintendo not to, in the 9 years since Undertale come out, go, oh shit, that goose has got a fucking golden egg under it, and we've left it alone long enough that it's dead.
I get that a remake is obviously like that's a lot of work, but at the very least, like not having done a translation and putting that up on the Nintendo Switch Online, which I mean, they could just buy the rights to this fan translation. Like it's all there. And I like from what I have read up on, I'm finding the timing of the beat thing kind of hard. And then I looked it up, and I think there's something about like playing it as a ROM that like does throw that off a little bit.
Makes sense.
So even something like that is like there are a couple of little quality of life things that are like very of their time of like this era of RPG that are like, you know, a little bit grindy, a little bit like, like random encounters and like this beat thing where like, you know, they did that thing in the Mario RPG remake where they had a little exclamation mark appear to kind of like help you out with the timing of pushing your buttons on the jumps. Like this having something a bit more, because it is such a neat mechanic, the like every enemy having different music that you have to like time your button presses to the beat. It's a cool idea. And I guess Undertale did kind of do that for big segments, but like having that be a little more signposted and a little more user friendly would be really cool. But definitely if you've never played this, it's you can find the ROM of it really easily.
And import a copy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I also bought a fan-made guidebook for it that is just... I love that something like this exists. A game that's never been translated into English officially has a passion project of a bunch of people who wrote like a very kind of like official like Primus strategy guide style book for it that's cool, that's got like their own little bits of writing in it. They've done their own like character illustrations. They've made a bunch of like replica clay models like I was talking about from the promo shots and put them all the way through it. And it's just like a cool read of like, you know, you could read through it and get like a sense of like what the game is. And it's neat. It's a good game. And finally seeing, you know, because that's one that always comes up that people are so mad that they've never, at the very least, translated into English and made available in some way. And getting a few hours into it, it's really easy to see why people are mad about it, because it's great and it's really unique. It's not something that's been sort of iterated on and done better, and that, you know, we don't really need to see a remaster of that because it's, you know, it's been done better and overtaken. Sure. It totally would hold up on its own 2 feet if they ever did anything with it. But cool. Yeah, good game.
Mother is mothering. Tommy Dasilo 2024.
Yep.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loudly.
Really sums it up.
What's his name? Satoshi Ito served absolute cunt when he made this game. Well, is that going to do us for another big week of chat and games?
Certainly is.
Thank you for joining us. As we said, we're a listener-supported show, so get onto our Patreon and you get a bonus show every week where we talk about movies, TV shows, all other stuff, media that's not video games. And even if that doesn't sound interesting, it means that you help support the show. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah, if you just want to be supportive and help Filthy Casuals continue to exist.
You make it exist.
It's all down to the support of our lovely, lovely patrons. And yeah, we enjoy doing the extra podcast. It really is a whole separate version of something like this about pop culture. So if you like movies and TV shows and music and stuff,
if you have interests, do we have the podcast for you?
Yep.
We have
this isn't about boating. That's my interest. They promised.
Well, write in, and if you love boating and you become a patron, we might go to a
special boat episode.
Yeah.
We found out we have a whole bunch of people on the Patreon who don't even listen to this anymore and only don't play games, but only consume TV and movies. And so they're on the Patreon just to get that. And then have since stopped listening to the video game.
True heroes.
Absolute heroes.
Yeah.
And they're not here so we can say whatever we want about them. We love them.
We love them.
It's the best, and your support means the world. Patreon.com/filthycasualspod.
Thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time. And as we say here at the end of every episode of Filthy Casuals.
This podcast was brought to you by Dolby Surround. Sorry for wasting your time. Sorry, everyone. Sorry.